All right, hey, put it in gear.
All right. Sounds good to me. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Road Noise. And yeah, thanks for hanging out with us. I think, Dad, this might be year two. We might be just like officially crossing that threshold here of releasing these podcasts every single week for the last couple of years. And I'm excited about this one. I don't know where we're going tonight, but I do know that this conversation is going to be released, and you're going to hear it right around Giving Tuesday, maybe a couple days before. But if you are friends of Sheldon and Vicky Rhodes over the years of 50 plus years of ministry, and you're familiar with Just Kidding and the Puppet Prospectors and Goliath Spear and God's Family and all the different forms of ministry that mom and dad have been a part of over the year, and you want to just celebrate with them as they close out the year and make a donation, uh, I would love that. So that's just my ask as dad's son, but also as a board member and someone who believes deeply in the ministry that they've committed their lives to. Partner with them in this next year, 2025, and help them solidify just a good spot financially as they step into the new year. So, all right, with that, Dad, where are we headed today?
Well, kind of taking off on what you just said. I was with a group yesterday, kind of a home group, home Bible study group, and I shared with them that while we were there in the afternoon, the nativity was still up at the office building, and people were still driving by and being blessed, and we weren't even at the property. Yeah, so involved in a lot of things, and man, it's so neat to look back as over the years as how God has provided, and that's kind of what I wanted to share on this podcast. This story takes place. We had just finished doing a vacation Bible school, and I don't remember if it was in Illinois or Iowa, but I know that our next Bible school was in Pennsylvania. And so we left, we finished things up at the church in Illinois or Iowa, whichever it was, on Friday morning. And so Friday afternoon, we're hitting the road because we have to be at this next church on Sunday and do a promotion thing about Bible school there, and then be there Monday through Friday of that week. Well, anyway, so we've got Friday afternoon and Saturday to make the miles, and that's not that far. And so it shouldn't be a real hard drive. Well, it shouldn't be. But wouldn't you know it, the bus was a 1955, and vehicles that old have a tendency to break down, should we say? So here we are, we're on the interstate and making good time. But every now and then I'm glancing out the side windows on both sides, looking in my rear view mirrors, just keeping an eye on traffic and all, behind us or coming up beside of us and everything. And something caught my eye when I looked out the driver's side window, so the left side of the vehicle. I look in the rear view mirror, and I see something towards the back of the bus that I had never seen before. There's a big bulge on the side of the bus. And I'm thinking, this can't be good. And so the very first opportunity I had to pull over and get the bus far enough off the road, I stopped. I went out and had to stand there for a while for all the other traffic to go by, because I've got to get out on the traffic side to investigate whatever this is. And so as soon as the traffic cleared, I scoot around the back side of the bus and I look at this bulge, and just like, I have no idea what this is, but this isn't good. It looked like there was something that was trying to penetrate right through the siding of the bus. Now you have to understand that in 1955, this flexible bus, the siding was actually stainless steel. hard as it can be. I mean, if you had to put a hole in it, it took some serious drilling and grinding and so forth. And it looked like something was trying to poke up through the side of the bus. It hadn't, but you could see kind of the outline of whatever it was. Well, anyway, so I figured, all right, I don't know if this thing is safe to drive or not, but I'm going to just limp along the interstate here until we get to a rest area. And again, this was back in the time when we don't have cell phones, but every rest area had a payphone. And when we got to the rest area, I go to the payphone and I called a gentleman that I had met several years before that. And this guy's name is Mel. And Mel told me several years before, he says, if you ever have any problem and you're in my area, give me a call. And I'm like, okay, Mel, what's your area? And he said, he stood there for a little bit and he said, oh, I don't know, anything east of the Mississippi, I guess. That's your area? I mean, that's a big area. And we do a lot of meetings. We do a lot of traveling in your area. And anyway, so he said, if you ever have a problem and you're in my area, give me a call. Well, the reason I called Mel is because he lives in Pennsylvania and the church that we're on our way to is in Pennsylvania. And it's not really that far on beyond where Mel lives to get to the church. So I'm thinking, I don't know what this guy's capable of, but he said if we ever needed something, give him a call. And so I did. And so I described to Mel what I saw there on the side of the bus, and he knew right away what it was. He said, Sheldon, he says, that's the frame. The frame is broken, and it's trying to come out the side of the bus. But he says, if it hasn't come out already, I don't think it will, as long as you're not on some rough roads. But he says, just take your time and come right straight to my shop. And he gave me the address to his shop. Well, Mel had back in those days anyway, had a salvage yard. And so he's got all kinds of vehicles. You know, some were in wrecks and just salvaged, you know, and others were fixable and so forth. But he had a beautiful shop where he could work on vehicles. Well, anyway, so he said, just take your time and come straight to the shop. So what is this, Friday afternoon, we're back on the interstate and we are on our way to Mel's in Pennsylvania. Didn't go fast, but didn't stop. I mean, just keep on going, slow and steady. Nice thing about the bus, and of course we had the teenagers with us as, you know, summer missionaries. But we've got a bathroom on the bus, so, you know, there's no need to stop. We'll just keep on going. And it was late evening when we got to Mel's place, and he told me that he would be waiting for us there at the shop. And he was. He pushed the button, and this great big door opens up, and he says, and he had a place already cleared out in there. He says, just pull it on in this bay, and we'll take a look at it. So we pulled it in there, and everybody got out and spent time in Mel's office there as he examined the bus, and it didn't take him long to verify exactly what he said had happened. The frame on that bus, that back end, oh, now keep in mind this is where the engine is at, is in the back of this thing. So it's got all that weight back there, and the frame had literally broken, given way, and was trying to poke up through the side. So the first thing he did is he jacked it all up and blocked it and so forth to try to get the weight off of the body. And then he's got to get the frame back down to where it's supposed to be. And then he's got to find hopefully enough good metal somewhere to start welding new steel. Well, between late Friday night and pretty much all of Saturday morning, that's what this man did. Is he rebuilt the frame of a Greyhound bus. He knew that we had to be back on the road at least by Saturday afternoon to get to this church by, late Saturday night. And so he knew the clock was ticking, and that man worked nonstop. Underneath that bus, he's cutting steel, putting it in place, clamping it and then welding it and cutting more steel. And like I said, he totally rebuilt the frame. But before we pulled out Saturday afternoon, he said, Sheldon, he says, I have rebuilt 1/4 of the frame. He says, keep an eye on this bus because he says, in the next couple years, I figure you're going to be having to do the same on all three corners where there's tires because the whole thing was just rusted out underneath. Well, Mel was right about that because before the third year was up, none other than Fred Bell had rebuilt the other three corners of that bus frame. When we finally got rid of that bus, it pretty much had brand new frame. All four, the tires and everything, all the wheels were on solid steel then. And Fred had replaced the kingpin in the front on that and so forth. Well, anyway, so I guess what I wanted to share is here's a guy that a few years before had said, if you're in my area and have any problems, give me a call. I don't know, but what he might have forgot about that. But I didn't. And so when I called him on that Friday afternoon, he did not hesitate one bit to say, come straight to my shop. Can I suggest that's a real friend? A real friend of our ministry. He was back then and he still is to this day. Fortunately, I haven't had to call him when we've been in his area for problems like that since, but we do stay in touch and we appreciate him and his wife so much. Just great people. But I think the lesson that we could walk away with on this is how many of us, how many of those watching or listening to this podcast have something that you can do. Maybe you can't rebuild the frame of a bus, but there's something that you could do. And maybe your pastor or a missionary or somebody in ministry is in your area. And you get to define how big your area is. But is there somebody that you could be a blessing to? That you could just make that offer and say, hey, this is what I do or whatever. And if you ever need something along the line that I could help with, give me a call. It would indeed be a huge blessing. I know it was for us. We didn't have to cancel any meetings. We got to the next church on time. And it's all because of a man who said, give me a call if you're in my area.
Yeah, I love it. And it reminds me of something we often hear at in service from Jeff is that we're blessed to be a blessing. So blessing in, blessing out. What a great example of that is someone to say, hey, I've got these abilities, not only abilities, but the time to do it and the space to do it, the expertise to do it. And you never know when you might be called up to play a part in the work that God has laid forth for people to do. Yeah, that's awesome.
In 1 Corinthians 12, you get down there around verse 27, 28, 29. We have a list there of and the church is made up of individuals, and it kind of goes through of what some of these are, the apostles, the prophets, and the teachers, and so forth. And that list goes down, and it's like number 4 or 5, maybe it's number 6 on that list, but it's really close to the top. There's one called helpers. And that's all. That's the only description it gives is helpers. And I know over the years I've kind of thought about myself as, where do I fit in? If I'm nothing else, I can be a helper.
Yeah.
Helpers are, that's a biblical assignment. And I think we all can fall into that category in one point or another. We can all be helpers.
Absolutely. Yep. Yep.
Well, speaking of helping, we're coming up on Thanksgiving. And have you ever thought about how many cooks it might take to make a pie?
Hmm. Nope.
3.14.
That sounds about
Oh,
right.
well. Well, all right. If we're talking about pies and Thanksgiving, do you know what the difference is between a turkey and a chicken?
Nope.
Chickens celebrate Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Yep.
And I think we all have a lot to be thankful for.
Yes, absolutely. Wait, that feels like it may be a good place to park it.
All right. We'll see you next week.
Sounds good.